Okay, car's only been up for sale a week, but lots of questions, and mostly from guys that have been watching the channel, which is great. So lots of questions, and most of you are like global, like I thought it was going to be. And lots of questions about shipping the car from Canada to either the US or UK or Germany or Tokyo. So we'll try to answer some of that stuff. I know, it's really dark in here. The whole weekend's like crap. Heavy clouds, raining, and everything else. So this has been all the light I could muster up. So one of the first questions I had was the price. I said it in the video, but I guess again, a bunch of guys didn't watch the whole video through the whole way. So it's 55,000 US dollars is what I've got it listed for. If anybody was paying attention, I listed it in Canada as well. And I actually put it for 70,000, which is couple thousand less when you do the conversion. So if you're going to give me Canadian funds, there you go, you got 2,000 off. I don't know what that is in euros. I actually haven't worked it out yet, but I'm sure you guys over there did. Importing into the US was another big question, and I know you can do it, I just don't know what it is. Maybe somebody in the comments has done this before, and they can help. I know when I was looking to buy one, I was going to buy one in the US originally. I just happened to get lucky and found one in Canada. But I know in Canada, to bring one in from the US, it had to be 15 years old, basically, and then you're good to bring it in. I don't know if it's the same thing going into the US, but I remember reading things on the, I think it was Lambo Clone or Mad Mechanics where guys have done it before. So there's a sticky kind of note, they call it in the forum, there. You can read it there. Or maybe somebody can chime in the comments that's done it before and knows what to do.
So another good suggestion was if you're over 6 feet tall, and remember I was saying you've got about a ½ inch here. Well, the guys are saying you could drop the seat with a floor pan drop, which I know guys have done before, and it's one thing I haven't had to do for me because I fit fine. But if you're 6'4", 6'5", whatever, you can drop a couple inches in the floor, and it's basically under here. The pan, instead of going flat across the bottom, which I'll show you in a bit, or I show it in the previous video, you could put a little drop pan in, and then the seat would sit down in that. So you get a couple more inches out of it, and it's actually fairly easy to do because the structure underneath the seat here, it's welded to the floor pan down on below, and it's sitting right on the pan now, but you could get it down a couple more.
So the other question was safety glass as the front. What's the certifications on the? Boy, it's going to be hard for you guys to read that. I don't know if you can read that or not. I got a rag in behind the windshield. So let's see if I can get things all lined up so it's legible here. There you go. I think you guys can read all that. So it's safety glass, it's laminated for the windshield. The door glass, I think I told you guys, was all flat. The same for the back. It is safety glass, so I don't think it's got anything on it. And then here for the side curved glass, because it's I think made in the same manner as a windshield because of the curve. It's DOT certified as well. I know for the guys in Europe and need that for the MOT. So another question. Kits in Canada don't have to pass emissions, so they don't have cats or anything like that in here. The only thing they have is a sticker in the firewall and a plate for the VIN on here, and that's all I've found anyways, so with the car. So for the exhaust, in order to fit it, right now the pipe goes down from the manifold here. It goes straight down. I'll go under the car and show you that. Okay, on the bottom side of the car, looking, there's the exhaust, the manifold there. It goes down to a downpipe here. You can see between the gap here where it goes under the frame rail It's pretty tight all along there. And then it falls out to a little straight pipe muffler. It's about, I don't know, 10, 12 inches long. And then that exits out to the exhaust tips. So not a lot of room there. You can almost see, can you? No, you can't really see it. Maybe you can see it. No, I can't see it that way. On this side you can see there's a drive shaft, the CV joint's out right there above it. So it sneaks on this side. There's a little more room where it sneaks through there, but only just. So it's not a whole lot of room. And you can see the same thing, it falls out to straight pipe and then out to the tips there. So not a lot of room down on the bottom side. So on the top side here you can just see the pipe running down through there, and then let me see if I can get the yeah, the other side is probably going to show better. There's our exhaust running through there, and then that's our drive shaft there for the CV joint that it's going under, and you can just see in the bottom side. So if you were going to put cats in there, there's not a lot of room to do it from the bottom. You'd need to do it somewhere from the top side here. So what I've seen guys do is they change these headers where you bring the muffler system up this way rather than going down. I could show it to you over on the LS we've got over here for the 240. Alright, just looking at the LS motor that we have here for the Datsun. So I think it's more or less the same as the LT1 and the Lambo, where you could, I think these manifolds are actually reversible and you could flip them upside down. So I think what guys have done, instead of going down like this, what they do is turn them upside down, or you get some headers that go over the top and they basically come up this way and then exit out the back of the car. So up here instead of down there, and what that allows you to do, it gives you a whole bunch more room, because in the Lambo that's where the battery is. So now you could run them across, put a cat, and then run back down the other side to the mufflers. So that's the idea. So it would rather come up this way. You relocate the battery, which could go in the trunk or just somewhere else in here if you wanted to. So the idea was you'd come up from here, cross over with a cat, and then back down to that muffler. Same on the other side over here. Over, down to the muffler that way. So there's room to go down that way. So that's the way I've seen guys do it before if you need to do the cats. Be a shame though. It sounds really good without them. There was some questions of if I've been into the motor at all, and I haven't. I think it's still sealed stock since it was new, so nothing's been done to the motor. It's basically stock, except for stripped of the emission stuff, like for the cats and that. So that's about it. Still a EGR valve on it and that. But you know, so the motor's been great. I think you can see actually on the other side where there's a little leaks out of the valve cover. So I think the seals, if I was going to keep it, I'd probably do that this year as one of the things in the winter to do. The transmission, so the clutch is new. I did that when I did the transmission rebuild, which was about 2 years after I got the car. The previous owner had starved the transmission of oil, and it caused a bearing to go, and then we broke the input shaft on it. So I sent it down to Dylan at Griffin Gearboxes. He just did the rebuild for me, sent it back, and then we changed the gearing on it. So the transmission has been rebuilt. Keep it topped off, but just make sure it's only, like I say, an ounce a year, if that I put in it. Where's what we put in it? Where do I put? There you go. That's what we put in it. Right there. The royal purple. Happens to be the same thing goes in, what do we put it in? Subi? There's something else that took that. There was questions about the lenses in the car, and I have no idea. These are just like standard 4-inch rounds. I think they're 4-inch, same as what Lambo had. Same with their, you follow the blog, you know I cleaned that whole pod out last year. And every 2-3 years you have to, a little bit of debris gets in there. But I don't know what these lights are, and the fogs are, I'm not sure what they are, but all of them have, when I was just taking apart the marker lights, things like that, I never noticed anything that was unusual that we wouldn't be able to find easy enough for being off the shelf thing. There was a question about squeaks in the car, and I did on one, oh boy, was it a hot day? I don't know if we're going to be able to see it anywhere. No, I can't. So I think there's some bushings. I think it's the rear. We had a hard time figuring it out. It's the first show of the year video I did this year, where Blake and I were in the car coming back, and we could hear a little bit of squeaking when we were running on the grass, because you're bouncing around a lot more on the grass. And we were trying to isolate. So what I was doing is every time I'd go out, I'd just lube up one of the bushings, you know, on the backside here, trying to figure out which one would do it. But what happened is the rest of the year it wasn't that hot, and I think it was only doing on really hot days. And because the bushings get a little softer and they squeeze out a little bit, and then they start rubbing against some metal and they make the squeak. So it's just a sign that it might be going. So I was trying to find out which one it was. I think I did the bottom bushings on the suspension here, but I didn't do the top. Not sure. In the blog I'll put a link if there's a link to what I did. And basically I think all it is the top bushings. It could be fine, but if you're in a hot climate or something, they might squeak, and then you can just give them a little toot of silicone lubricant, and it usually goes away, and then you know which one's the problem, and you can see if it gets worse or not. But anyways, because the rest of the year was not that hot, I never got it squeaking again, but that was the only squeak in the car. And there's the odd rattle, like I was saying, from when you take the car out off the lift. You know, it's sitting on this metal in the cold up here in Canada, and tires tend to, they'll be almost like they're imbalanced. Then they get warm, and then they're fine. But it does take a little while. So even on some of my videos, you'll notice the camera shaking a little bit, and then they hit near the end of the run, it goes away. But I did say in the last video for selling the car, these are getting old. These tires, I can't remember what the date was on them. I looked it up a while ago now. I won't be able to find it, but the front tires are going to need replacing. They're just getting old. There's lots of tread on them, but they're just old. Didn't mention this in the last video, but the car does have coilovers. Let's see if I can get them. You can just see there in the background, my cord for charging is there. But we do have coilovers on the car. They're H&R coilovers. I replaced them because, if I remember right, they were chrome originally, and when I took them off, I did notice, I think that one was 50 pounds more than the other, or something like that, on one side compared to the other, with the noted on the spring rate. So not a biggie though. So I just put the H&Rs on there because I like the blue. I don't know, I got something with blue on cars. Blue on cars. Alright, I'm going to lift the hood up here. Of course, this time it won't let me. I can't hold you guys and do this all at the same time. Maybe I can. So when by myself, I just shove a rag in the back here. It just puts a little pressure because there's a safety latch on it. So I just shove that in there. Yeehaw. There you go. Now you can open it. So there was a question around this, if it could be hooked up to a computer. And yes, it can. It's right here. That's an ODB1 port. So it's out of a 93 vet. So the engine and the ECU. So it's an older, prior to ODB2 port. So it's an ODB1. So you can get some codes out of it. And there's a little light here, you can see it. That's for if you do have any codes or a check engine light on, that'll come on there as well as up on the dash. There is a question about the brakes. Not gonna be able to see the pads, maybe, but the pads have, I would say, 70% on them on the front. Back, I think, if I remember, had lots. I can't really see them, but you don't use them quite as much, but then the rotors are fine. So lots of meat there. There was a question of how much the car weighs, and I know it was 3,350 pounds. When I did that video 0 to 60, I actually took and got it weighed. So I know that for a fact. And in overall dimensions, it actually is exact the same as real McCoy. I actually measured it years ago. I can't remember, but I remember measuring wheelbase and girth and height and all that stuff of it, and it was all bang on to the real deal. And when I rented the trailer to take it down to Carlisle last spring, it measured up. It just fit in the trailer. A couple inches to spare. OptiSpark, the ignition system on the OptiSpark, which is down in between the firewall and the front of the engine. Never had an issue with it. I think Luke, when he built the car, he put a new one on it, and you know, it's not really causing a problem. I did have some surging. I think I remember years ago talking about the car at idle when you had full load on it, like the AC on and the fans on for cooling. It would have the surging idle. It would hunt a little bit, and then you turn off the AC, and then it would be fine. So this year it actually never did it. Last year it never did it either. So it's just kind of gone away. I was pointing towards the OptiSpark for it, but I don't know now. So I can't answer that question. So, but that hunting idle thing is the only other issue I didn't talk about in the previous video. There was another question about how many batteries it had. Just the one. Next question. Alright, somebody was talking to me or asking me about why that was, what the holes were on the back. But note the AC condenser in the front. Remember I was saying it's up here in the front to help with the cooling. The AC works so well in the car. Well, it was back here in the engine bay originally, and that's what those holes, and that's what those holes are all about there. And even that extra cord hanging there is just is for the fan for the air condenser. So that's where it was, and it probably didn't work very good, and that's why they relocated it to the front. Next question was, is the fuse panel easily accessible? And it is. There you go. I put that on there. Just a little bonus for keeping cell phones all charged up. Another question was, does it have an emergency brake? And yes, it does. That lever there is for, pull that across and you can roll your seat forward or back. So one of the overwhelming comments was gonna miss the videos and love the videos and all that, which is great. You know, thanks for those comments. That was great. I got a whole bunch from you guys and didn't realize there was as many kind of phantom watchers out there. But anyways, thanks for the comments on the videos and staying tuned to that. I'll be carrying on the channel with something else, probably Blake's car to start, and then I'm sure I'll be into something else that probably won't be a replica. Might be. I just don't know at this point. We'll have to see.